Welcome to the show. Welcome to Your Thought Life Podcast. I am your host, Michael Anderson. If you haven't already, do take a moment and subscribe and/or leave us a review. Either one will help the channel to grow so that we can reach more people seeking this style of content. And thank you so much for that act of kindness. Today, we're talking about when charity fades, anxiety takes over. Nearly 40% of adults report anxious. Nearly 40% of adults report feeling anxious on a regular basis. And one of the top triggers is uncertainty about the future. Now, if you're like me, you're always attempting to plan. You want to have an appreciation for what tomorrow and the next day would look like. According to the American Psychology Association, this specific issue is on the rise throughout all age brackets in the United States. So today what we endeavor to do is to dive into this topic, one that hits really close to home. And for so many folks like myself in the entrepreneurial space and other professionals who deal with this, our intent is to really unpack this situation in such a way that you don't feel stuck, you don't feel overwhelmed, and you're not paralyzed by indecision or feeling all alone. Clarity is probably one of the single most important things that we can wrap our minds and hearts around as professionals. When we don't know what we want and we don't have a clear understanding of where we're heading, our minds will fill in the blanks. And more often than not, it does that with worry. And then worry escalates to anxiety. Anxiety, when full blown, can have a very detrimental impact on our overall mental and psychological health. So this is something we need to deal with, family. And this one is more than just, applying positivity and really having a check and balance about our mindset. We have to deal with a piece of science here because the brain craves certainty. We are fighting against an element that has been with us in our ancestry all the way back to the beginning. And when it doesn't get certainty, the amygdala, which is the part of your brain responsible for fear, anxiety, and your fight or flight response, it goes into overdrive. And if yours is like mine, it doesn't take very long. This is a matter of seconds, not minutes or hours. And so when we lack clarity, the lack of clarity makes even the most confident of people feel very anxious, get very reserved, and then that ushers in that whole stuck feeling. You have to know that this is a vicious cycle. And unfortunately, still in the science space, here's a kicker. Anxiety makes it even harder for you to get clear because you're so wound up. You're in that fight or flight mode, or in some cases, fight, flight, pause mode. And when you have that level of cortisol flowing through your body, you're anxious. Your brain's executive function is off to the races. And what that means is the rational side of your brain is very hard to get to. And so if you're trying to, plan, prioritize, and make decisions, you simply can't until you are released from that mode. And therein is the vicious cycle. A lot of times we don't even have awareness of what the cycle is. So it's our intent again today to bring this to your attention so you're no longer hijacked, or your conscious mind is no longer hijacked by this situation. It's just a quick rewind on this just to make sure we are able to level set what we've shared. When we end up in a loop, we end up anxious. We're anxious because of uncertainty. The brain craves uncertainty. When we don't get it, this situation launches all by itself without your approval. So, what is it that we can do to deal with this? I'm glad you asked. I've got a couple of things that you can add to your arsenal. So if you are in this situation, have a loved one in this situation, or find yourself periodically dealing with this, you can add this to your tool chest so you can deal with it more effectively. We have to acknowledge that clarity isn't something that you can find. It's something that you create. You do that before the situation. So I need you to take the time to understand what things are you encountering on a recurring basis that create this sensation in your body. What are the so-called circumstances that either you are creating or the lack of clarity, future pacing, is creating without you being fully aware? What's going on inside of you, inside of your mind? If you begin a practice of checking in with yourself now to understand what that looks like ahead of the event or the trigger or the emotional onslaught or the circumstances that lack clarity that bring on the cycle, when you get there, you will have for yourself a level of awareness that helps you at least stop for a moment and say, hey, we talked about this a few days ago. We're getting ready to enter this cycle. I'm seeing the precursors to this that I wrote down in my journal when I was doing some introspective work about what is it that makes me respond like that? What's getting me anxious? And what types of uncertainty or lacks of clarity are predominantly helping me to enter this cycle? Your awareness, taking those moments to write that down and to get real clear with respect to how you are wired, is going to be the number one thing you can do to short circuit this particular issue. Next, we touched on this a little bit, but number two specifically is, what is it that you are unclear about? Is it your career path? Is it a business decision? Is it a personal development decision? Is it a relational decision? Is it a financial decision? We've got to name it, categorize it, and take the time to then unpack it so we understand the components within it. And simply by taking this step, we now have removed a large degree of uncertainty because we have it written down. It's on our radar. We're thinking about how we're going to deal with this particular situation. And then finally, in step number 3, what I would like for you to do is, when you're facing these sort of decisions, take the time to understand that you're not doing this in a vacuum. You're not alone. You are not isolated. There are other people who are dealing with the exact same set of circumstances. You can probably look to the left or to your right in your workplace, and although you won't see it, the probability is very high that the people you're working with are feeling some degree of anxiousness as a result of not being clear on what it is that next step should look like. You can now be in a place to provide for yourself some compassion, some relief in the form of self-friendship, so that you don't have to feel deep-seated in this struggle off to yourself alone. Because let me tell you, we shared a statistic with you on intro that suggests this is a growing phenomena in the United States and probably on a global scale. So again, no need for you to beat yourself up about this, because clarity also includes kindness. To the extent that you can be kind to yourself, then that in itself will get you back to a mental state where you can clear the fog and begin to release from the cortisol so you can think clearly through the plan, the strategy, how you're going to deal with this on a go-forward basis. And the truth is, research shows that uncertainty is more stressful in the brain than knowing something bad is going to happen. I know that's wild, right? It means that your brain would rather have a clear answer, even a tough one, than to sit in an unknown state. That's why creating clarity, even if it's just a little bit, can dramatically lower and reduce, if in some cases completely remove, those high degrees of anxiety so that you can move through life with a different degree of comfort and without your body waiting you for the answer. Tony Robbins talked about this some time ago, and he stated in so many words that clarity is power. And the more clear you are about what you want, the more your brain knows how to get you there. So having a plan, having a life vision, having a long-term set of objectives or short-term set of objectives, and having a systematic, if you will, milestones established for weekly, monthly, quarterly, annual milestones, I think is very helpful to defend and defeat this particular issue. We've done this for countless people, and they've gone from being incredibly overexcited to now having a tremendous amount of peace. It's achievable, and it's very simple once we take the time to do what is needful to unpack this in such a way that we have a roadmap that we can share with our brains so it doesn't get overly excited. So if you're feeling anxious or stuck, remember you're not broken, you're just missing clarity. And you can gain clarity by utilizing the 3 steps that we talked about, and by also creating for yourself a vision for your life, long-term goals, short-term goals, and milestones throughout the current year, so your brain doesn't have to work as hard and doesn't have a need to fill in the blanks. If it's something short-term that might be outside of this particular space, we're going to address it in the exact same way. We're going to identify what the concern is. We're going to put a name on that, and we're going to think about ways that we can go and address it. And that in and of itself will start to diminish the anxiety, because now there's a plan. And your brain can do far more with the plan than without the plan. Start small, get specific, give yourself permission to move forward with kindness, and just take one step at a time. Thank you so much for joining me today, and do consider leaving us a rating and a review. Helps the channel tremendously. Feel free to connect with us through our Linktree link, which is available in the show notes. I like to remind you that you are enough, you can do it, and you are uniquely equipped to realize your goals. Until next time, take care and overcome anxiety with clarity.